It was after midnight when the black truck pulled into a graveled parking area near an Illinois nature preserve. Two prostitutes got out. A man stayed behind the wheel of the truck. One, the older of the two, took a moment to look for her cigarettes, while the other, her daughter, raised a weighted tire iron and got ready to strike. "What the hell, Chrissy?" the woman yelled out as the daughter brought the tire iron down on her head. In moments, the younger had dragged her to the ground in a stranglehold, choking her out. She then dragged the woman back into the brush and went to work on her with a short-bladed folding knife. Bloody-handed and out of breath, she made her way back to the truck and instructed the man to drive away. She had orphaned herself in an effort to protect her own motherhood. Join us as we look into the tawdry lives of Chrissy Roush and her mother, Teresa Poehlman, two women who had been on a lifelong collision course that ended in that fateful moment. Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Teresa Poehlman.
Backup 911, what's your emergency?
I would like to report a possible dead body found out by the Maple Grove Nature Preserve.
And have you seen the body, or?
Yeah, we just noticed we're on our way out, and we didn't notice it when we came in because we're leaving the same place we came out at. And I just saw something red over to my right going down the trail, and I was like, looks like a person laying there. Went up a little bit further. I didn't get very close to it, maybe 15 feet away, but no response to
You said you confirm it is a person?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks like they're wearing a red tank top. Looks like a female. Red tank top with looks like blood all over her chest too.
Okay, you said red all over her chest, like the shirt's not red, but
the shirt's red, but yeah, there was looks like apparently blood or something on her chest that was exposed.
Okay, are you willing to go up closer to see what's going on, or do you not want to get up close to it, or?
I guess I can trudge up a little bit closer to see what's going on here.
Okay, it's up to you. And, I don't want to make you do something you don't want to do, but if we can check on her to see if, maybe she's still possibly alive, or if there's anything else. So.
Gotcha. No response. Looks like her throat's been pretty messed up.
What's that?
Looks like her throat's been pretty messed up. Like I said, there's blood all over her top part of her chest with her red tank top.
Okay, does it look like it was maybe cut or what?
Can't really tell. Her head's in the way. Oh man, that looks like it might have been cut.
Okay. Do you see any weapons laying around, or?
No, I sure don't.
Okay. Okay, can you tell, does it seem like it's been there a while, or?
Yeah, there's flies starting to gather around. Looks like she's got holes in her shirt, too, so she may have been shot.
Okay.
Deputies and investigators from the McLean County Sheriff's Office were quick to the scene, and they found the body of a middle-aged woman who had been beaten and stabbed multiple times. She had no forms of identification on her. The area was quickly cordoned off, and investigators from the Illinois State Police would also lend their assistance. That evening, the Sheriff's Office would send out pictures to the local media of a tattoo and a necklace the woman had worn in hopes that someone could identify her. By the next morning, they had received a number of calls, including one from the woman's own parents. She was identified as 47-year-old Teresa Poehlman, who had an adult daughter living in East Peoria, Illinois, and a young son living in Texas. Her daughter had been removed from her custody at the age of 3 to be raised by those parents. The son was in the custody of Teresa's estranged husband. Both relationships had been contentious over the years. The parents went to the local coroner's office and provided positive identification of the woman. However, her daughter, Chrissy Roush, declined to participate, saying that she just couldn't bring herself to see her mother in that condition. Chrissy would be brought in for questioning on Wednesday, May the 5th, after she called the sheriff's department and said that she had seen her mom the night before the murder. She laid out a story of the two women living in separate motel rooms, drinking, doing drugs, and working as prostitutes. Detective Corey Beverlin of the McLean County Sheriff's Office would conduct the interview. At this point, Christine was not a suspect in the case.
So obviously something happened to your mom. You're aware of that, correct? That's why we're upset.
Pretty kind of aware of that one.
Okay. I know that you've been with your mom this past week. Could you just try as hard as you can and walk me through how that all started, what's been going on, and like I said, I'm here to help you and to help her to figure out what happened. And I think you can help me out a lot because you've been there the last week. So how did this start?
She came to Bloomington because the train station was here and she was going to drop my little brother off, but his father decided just to come get him, so she got a room at Red Roof.
Okay.
She made a page on Backpage with her face and everything. And so she had men coming in and they were not... They got her back on shit that she had just kind of cleaned off of. So she was smoking again, like, and there was, I don't know if it was heroin, but a little brown, like, ball, like, it was like chalk, almost like chalky, but she did say she had that. That night, she had a visit in Hayworth, and she said she had a ride back. And me and her don't. I can't watch her drink and then she gets mad at me, so I couldn't handle it, so I had to just. And it was the 4th of July, I have the divorce papers, so I figured why not just. But other than that, we stopped at the gas station to get her cigarettes because she was freaking out, and then I was pretty much. That was it. She had a lot of men coming in and out of her room where she was going on visits.
Okay. When was the last time you saw your mom?
That we dropped her off. We dropped her off in Hayworth. At 2 a.m., 2:30, around midnight till 3. We were bringing her, but by then I was drinking and she was just telling me directions as to where to go.
Christine still acts as if she doesn't know what happened to Teresa.
We found her.
No, I don't.
Okay, on Sunday. I'm just trying to get a timeline.
The detective then tries to come to an understanding of what brought Teresa to the area from Texas and why Chrissy was also there.
My mom had not a lot of money, so I mean it had to have been bad, but she does this all the time.
You know, it seems like just about every month they get into it and she takes off.
There was this, well, the guy, because I was mad she wasn't answering her phone. She said she had a visit and she wasn't answering, so I went and I banged on her door, and some guy got very angry because he thought it was the cops and like slammed her against the wall and started freaking out on her.
When was that?
About 4:30, 5 o'clock that day, that whole, so Saturday.
So, okay, here, I'm going to stop you and just so I'm clear. So you dropped her off in Hayworth on a night, overnight one night.
I don't know Bloomington, Hayworth.
Okay, so a small town outside of Bloomington?
Yes.
And then that guy brought her back. Did he stay with her at the hotel?
She said she had a ride back.
She had a ride back.
Who it was, that was the last time I saw her.
The person that brought her back, did you see her actually get back?
No.
She never came back?
No. And I was drinking. I was tired of babysitting.
From her using whatever she was using and
I got away orders and started using again. And now I left and I stopped babysitting, and now she.
Did you see the guy that you dropped her off?
I will admit fully I was trash.
Who drove her?
His name's Matt Isbell.
Okay. A friend of yours, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't handle her anymore. Like, she just...
Where's Matt at? Is he from here?
He's from, East Peoria, Morgan Heights.
Okay.
It's becoming obvious that there's more to the story, and Chrissy is having some trouble keeping the days straight, and she tells him of having run-ins with the clients Teresa had brought to her room, including one who had slammed her mother against a wall during an argument. Before leaving the room for a few minutes, the detective checks to see how Chrissy is holding up under the news.
Are you doing okay for a moment? Let me...
It's kind of hitting. I'm sober, so I mean.
I understand. I mean, you take your time.
I'd like to know what. I mean, did she overdose?
I can't discuss any details about that right now.
I threw away most of it, so I mean, I don't.
You threw away most of what?
What she was using.
I mean, I can't tell you any details about that right now. That's the coroner's office's job.
Over the next few minutes, Chrissy's emotions break through and she cries alone in the room. When the detective comes back, Chrissy leads him through a story of what happened the night before Teresa's death, how she and her friend Matt Isbell had taken her mom out to meet up with a client, but they had stopped at a gas station along the way to make some purchases.
Did you guys stop anywhere in Hayward?
Gas station.
You stopped at a gas station. So how late would it have been that you dropped her off in what you think is Hayworth?
Like 2:30, around that time. Because I was just...
Did you drop her off at the gas station, or did you just stop there?
We dropped her off around... No, we didn't drop her off at that point. We were going to, because her card was declined at first, and she was trashed walking around in that gas station trying to buy $112 worth of stuff. But no, we didn't. We dropped her off somewhere else. Like, we kept driving.
Not very far from the gas station, though, right? Still in that same town?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of car does Matt drive?
A truck.
Do you know what kind?
Ford.
What color?
Diesel. Blue.
Like light blue or dark blue?
Dark blue.
Is it a nice truck or is it a
It's a
shitty truck?
shitty truck.
Okay. Do you think that you'd be able to show us where you dropped her off at? What about Matt? Do you think Matt would? Was he sober?
Not. Well, no, he was not sober.
Okay. We need to figure out
I can't even
where your
see
mom
which
was at.
gas station. I can't even see which gas station. I have no idea.
Were you guys on your phone at all? Did your mom have her phone with her when you guys dropped her off?
She had a phone.
Okay.
But, I mean...
What about you? Did you have your phone at that point?
I did at that point.
Do you remember the number of the phone that you had at that point?
I will be on it. You can even ask my ex. I have been switching numbers.
I know. What about Matt's phone? Did you ever use Matt's phone for anything?
No.
Did Matt have his phone on him?
No. Because he might have broken it. Like, it's an iPhone, so he shattered the glass, and every time he used it, it just kept cutting his fingers.
The detective would leave her alone in the room for a few minutes before returning to continue his questioning. He makes sure to reassure her that she is not a suspect.
Just so you know, I'm not here to judge anybody. You're not in any trouble. I've been very honest with you and very clear that you're here to help me.
I mean, do I get answers? Because it is my fault. I mean, I left her. And
No, it's not your fault.
Then, Chrissy provides a bit more insight into both her mom's life and her own, how they worked and lived, and what kind of relationships they had developed, and how the lifestyle sometimes got out of control.
Her posting up on Backpage, and I assume that she started getting calls almost immediately after that went up.
Because she had her face up there.
So what's the significance of that? People know that she's a real person and it's not a fake page, or did you tell her she shouldn't put her face up there?
Because you get people, and someone had just been stabbed over there.
Everywhere. Oh, in Bloomington. Yeah, at the hotel. Is this her first time that she's...
She used to do it in Texas. That's why I was adopted.
Okay.
She doesn't work, like, she doesn't get a job. She doesn't do this, but she lives off of men for. I'll sleep with you if you give me a roof, food, money.
Okay. Did you have online ads as well? Is that how kind of you did things also? I need to figure out why you were there, why your mom came, kind of how everything...
She follows me. I used to take care of her, just...
Because you guys lived together in Morton for a little while before she ended up having to go back to
drinks
prison.
heavily. And I try not to get her, so she's not... I don't want her going back, and I try to have a relationship with her.
Okay. Do you have a drug problem also?
I used to have a very bad addiction to H and Coke, and she was bringing it back in. I could not. That's why she hadn't been answering her phone yet, so I figured she wasn't back yet. I wanted to leave before she got back because I didn't want to
Sure.
explain.
No, I completely understand.
And then, Detective Beverlin brings her back around to the events of that night when Teresa was killed, when she inadvertently gives a statement that could be tied directly to a piece of evidence that would be found at the crime scene.
And then, did you, right when you got off the freeway, is that where the gas station was?
Pretty sure, yes, because she was about to jump out of the truck to get a cigarette.
Okay.
And then I went in and I bought a Black and Mild, so...
So you actually went in and bought something too at the same place?
Yeah, while I was waiting for her to try to...
And you're sure it was a Subway that was inside there?
Yes, it's a Subway, because she was going to get a sandwich, but they were closed.
Okay.
In the grass near Teresa's savaged body lay a single red cigarette lighter, one that showed no signs of being out in the weather for any period of time, and more tellingly, the plastic-tipped butt of a Black and Mild cigar. After the killing, had Chrissy stopped for a smoke to steel herself against what she had just done? Chrissy would continue her story, saying that after dropping her mom off at the location, her mother had reassured her that everything was going to be okay.
And then after you dropped her off, she said that she has a ride home.
Don't worry about me, Chrissy Bear. I've got a ride.
And then you and Matt headed back to the hotel that you guys were at.
And then I grabbed the alcohol she promised me I could have in her room. Which is now really horrible because I just... She doesn't even like Crown, and she got that bottle from me.
I'd like you to let me know where you're at, just in case you're not in any trouble. I can't say that enough. But I think that of anybody, you're going to be the one that's going to be able to help me the most because you spent the most time with your mom, okay?
You don't think it was selfish that I left her, right?
No, I mean, it sounds like you put up with a lot while you were there. And it sounds like she was, it's possible that if what was going on continued, she might have drug you into a part of your life that you didn't want to go back to. So, I mean, it's easy to look at a situation from, the future and look back and say, I wish I would have done this differently, but we are all afforded that privilege, so.
The interview would end soon after, with Chrissy saying that she really had nothing else to say. Detective Beverlin, though, would give her one last chance to come clean as evidence outside of the interview room started coming together.
I can't really say more than that, right?
I know, and you don't have to. I understand. Everything you've told me has been the truth to the best of your knowledge, is that correct? Okay.
While family members, especially ones with strained relationships, are oftentimes suspects in murder cases, the sheriff's department were still operating at that time of the questioning that Chrissy wasn't connected. While her interview would place her at the scene of the crime, tell of a difficult week between the two, and provide one piece of linking evidence, there was something else that had come up, not during the interview but before it. Chrissy was living in East Peoria at the time and did not have her own transportation, so members of the McLean County Sheriff's Office had to come and get her and then take her back when they were done. On the ride to the sheriff's office, Chrissy had sat in the front passenger seat while Detective Morgane Trickett sat in the back seat directly behind the young woman. In her police report of the incident, Detective Trickett said she noticed scratch-like cuts on the base of Chrissy's neck on the left side. A small cut on Chrissy's right hand little finger would also be noticed, and that cut would be explained later that day as Matthew Isbell was brought in for questioning. Matt, just 20 years old at the time, was a friend of Chrissy, although apparently a very close one. The two drank together and smoked weed, but according to him, they did not have a sexual relationship. During an interview with Deputy Dave Fritz, Matt would say that he had traveled to hang out with Chrissy on the night before Teresa was killed. He had rented his own separate hotel room away from where the two were working and had shown up because Chrissy had the night off. And then, during the interview, Matt did the unexpected. At first, Matt told the deputy that he had driven Chrissy and Teresa to the site that night and dropped them off. Since they were there so Teresa could be picked up and head off to a party, he didn't want to stay around, so he drove around for a bit before coming back. When he did, only Chrissy was there, as he expected. He then said that he drove back to the Days Inn motel where they grabbed a bottle of Crown Royal from Teresa's room number 423, before going back to his room to drink. When asked why there were inconsistencies between his story and Chrissy's, Matt just completely broke down and told the grisly tale of what had happened that night. Chrissy stabbed her mom, Matt began. He explained that earlier in the weekend, Teresa had said that because Chrissy had gotten her sent back to jail for a probation violation 2 years before, now Teresa was going to tell the police about how Chrissy had been working as a prostitute. Chrissy, at the time, had been fighting to regain custody of her 2-year-old daughter. This kind of information would mean there would be no way she would be able to get her own child back. It would end up mirroring the situation that had happened to Teresa when Chrissy was just 3 years old. Matt said that the location they had taken Teresa to had been given to Chrissy by her pimp and was a place he had used, allegedly, to dump bodies in the past. He had advised to drag the body off into the bushes, take her purse and ID, cell phone, and then leave. Matt said the pimp told her that he had connections that would take care of the rest. Matt said that the tire iron was used in the incident was one from his toolbox in the back of the truck. It had been modified to have a hammerhead welded on one end. That was the end Chrissy had used to hit her mother. He said he was sitting 15 feet away in the truck when the attack began. He said he tried not to look. He did not want to see what was happening. But he looked up when the older lady yelled out, "What the hell, Chrissy?" Chrissy then yelled out that this wasn't going to end the way she wanted it to, and he saw her drag Teresa to the ground, put her arm around her neck and put her in a chokehold until the woman quit moving. Then Chrissy dragged her into the bushes, was gone for a few minutes, and when she came back out, her hands were covered in blood. Chrissy was also trying to staunch the bleeding from a cut on her little finger and used a long-sleeve Harley-Davidson t-shirt she had been wearing. She was also carrying a knife. The two would go back to the Days Inn motel, as he had said before, but they went to Teresa's room. Chrissy had also taken time to thoroughly wash her hands in the bathroom sink, leaving the bloody knife on the counter. Matt would leave the next morning, but he said Chrissy must have gotten a ride with her pimp back home. Later, she would get Matt to meet her and the pimp at Denny's restaurant in Perkin, Illinois. Matt said the man told him he would take care of disposing of Teresa's ID and other effects along with the knife. He said that Matt and Chrissy would have to get rid of the tire iron and their cell phones so they could not be traced back to the scene. The pimp then told Matt that if he gave up any information, that he knew where Matt's family lived and that Matt's mother would be next. Immediately after the meeting, as Chrissy and Matt drove away, they were driving across a bridge on Highway 150. Chrissy attempted to throw the tire iron out of the truck, hoping it would fall into the river below. She missed, however, and hit one of the bridge pillars, causing the weapon to land in the roadway. Matt would circle the location on the map where it had landed and then provided the officers with that drawing of where the tire iron should have been. Shortly thereafter, Detective Trickett was able to recover the weapon right where Matt said it would be. Matt would be placed under arrest for the murder of Teresa Poehlman. Deputies would go back and pick up Chrissy Roush. According to Detective Trickett's police report of the incident, the officer knew this was going to be a close matter of timing. They knew from the earlier interview that she was supposed to check out of the Motel 6 later that day. When they arrived at her room, there was no answer at the door. They entered the room as a welfare check and to make sure that nothing had happened to her. She wasn't there. The officers, with the help of the motel manager, waited in the next room for Chrissy to return. When she did return, they quickly knocked on the door and asked her to return to the station with them for a few questions. Detective Trickett said that Chrissy's demeanor had changed greatly since the last time she had been seen. Now she was agitated and nervous. As they asked her a couple of questions, she went across the room, grabbed a glass pipe that she used to smoke marijuana, and tried to light it up right in front of the police officers. They brought her directly back to the station.
You were pretty upset last time you were in here.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not... I was feeling like that was my fault.
Well, I mean...
And I'm realizing her decisions aren't.
Yeah, her decisions leading up to what happened to her were her decisions, and I agree with you on that. But I think that there's something that you're not being very forthcoming about.
There's not at all. You won't find anything because I didn't do anything. I didn't.
Okay.
I know you're trying. I don't have anything for you.
I think you do. Okay. And I think deep down you want to let me know. But I certainly can understand why you'd be scared about it.
I'm scared about what?
I think you're not being honest about what happened. What happened to your mom? As a matter of fact, I'm pretty positive that I know that you're not being honest with me about what happened to your mom.
No.
Okay. Just to kind of give you a little taste of what we're talking about, I mean, cell phones, you know, whether the physical cell phone itself is destroyed or not, cell phone records, call history,
Lawyer.
Tower.
Lawyer.
Lawyer what?
I want a lawyer.
You want a lawyer? Okay, so you don't want to talk to me anymore?
No.
Okay. Do me a favor, just stay put for me, okay?
Detective Beverlin would leave the room, not just to shut down the interview, as the request for a lawyer normally does, but also because he noticed Chrissy digging at her fingernails during the interview. He immediately had a team from the state CSI office come in and place paper bags over her hands. They would later take trimmings of her nails and swab her hands to see if they could find any traces of Teresa's DNA. They left her alone in the room for a long time. After an hour and a half, she begins to lose her composure. While it is very common in interrogations to leave suspects alone with their thoughts and feelings of impending trouble, in this case, Detective Beverlin was just down the hall in another interview room talking with Matt Isbell, who had been brought back in from the lockup. There were some issues he wanted to go back over with the young man, especially in light of some of the evidence they had found.
There was some possible blood-like substance on the front of your shorts. Is there any explanation for that?
Right there.
Possibly. I want to say they said left side.
I'd had ribs that night and it was barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce? Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you have ribs at?
My mom's house.
Okay.
The ribs are still in the fridge.
Okay. Well, very good. All right. You don't believe that you got any blood on you? I know that you already told him that her DNA shouldn't be on you because you already explained your involvement.
Yeah.
Any other explanation as to why there could possibly be any of Teresa's blood on any of your clothing?
No.
Okay.
Officers from the McLean County Sheriff's Office and the state police had searched the home he shared with his parents and his Ford F-250 pickup truck after receiving warrants. Within his bedroom inside the home, they found the clothes that he said he had worn that night, along with a knife similar to the one he had described Chrissy as using on that night. The truck would provide few clues at first glance. It was a mess inside, and it was easy to see how Teresa could have been occupied at the time of the attack looking for a pack of cigarettes, and just as easy to see how the weapons used could have been hidden basically in plain sight. Tellingly, though, certain parts of the passenger car seat and the passenger door where Chrissy would have sat after the killing did show trace amounts of blood, only visible under black light after being treated with luminol. During this time, the CSI team enters Chrissy's room and began taking photos of her for evidence, paying attention to the spot on her neck where she had the scratch, as well as the injury to her finger. She is then provided with jail clothes. After the officers leave her alone, the full weight of what is happening seems to come crashing down on her. By this time, Chrissy just wants to know what's going on. She loses her composure again after being left alone, but she would soon find out what was happening on the other side of that door.
Do me a favor, put your hands back through your sleeves. And you just stand up, turn around, put your hands behind your back. You're being placed under arrest for murder.
Both Chrissy and Matt would be booked on charges of first-degree murder in the death of Teresa Poehlman. A search of Teresa's motel room on the day her body was found had turned up a number of pieces of evidence, from a small plastic-wrapped ball of heroin, cell phone boxes, and even traces of blood in and around the sink where Chrissy had allegedly washed her hands after the killing. The evidence linked up squarely with the stories that had been told by Matt and Chrissy. The coroner's report would list out a litany of damage done to Teresa. Within, it detailed a blunt trauma injury to her head, evidence of strangulation that led to death, over a dozen stabs and slashes to her neck, throat, and another 12 stabs to the woman's chest. Chrissy would plead guilty to first-degree murder in December of 2018. She would be sentenced to 40 years, a term the judge defended by stating that even though there were mitigating circumstances and letters of support stating that many felt she could be rehabilitated, the very cold, calculated, and brutal nature of the crime demands that a sentence be imposed that is significant. Matthew Isbell would plead guilty to second-degree murder the following July and would receive a 12-year sentence for his part in the killing. While the man alleged to be Chrissy's pimp was named in the interview process, he was interviewed by local law enforcement and they were unable to tie any charges to him. His alibi and the police reasonings for not further investigating were redacted from the records. In the end, Chrissy had been brought into this world and caught up in a chaotic whirlwind of her mother's life from the very beginning. Even though she was rescued from it by family members and given a new adoptive family, she would fall back into the chaos once again. Her life proved that some troubles might truly be inherited, and down deep inside, there was a part of her heart that could not be softened. And, as her Facebook intro would attest, that part of her was very much something she embraced. Her credo reads, "I ain't sorry for what I dish out. You sit back and eat it, so not my problem, love." If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.